Well, let me tell you something. That money's going to the government. That money's going for different pet projects. That money's going to fund the war. And that money is paying for your congressperson and your senator's health care and many other perks. But see, your senator and the president and your representative, all their health care is either low cost or no cost. And in reality, even if they paid $1,000 a person, it still would be free health care to them. Now you might say, how can they be paying $1,000 and you call it free? Well, we must examine and remember, they're getting every penny they get from the United States taxpayer. You're paying their bill. You're paying the Congress. You're paying the president. Your taxes are giving them their paycheck. So therefore, even if a congressman or woman pays $1,000 for their health care, they're not really paying anything. You paid for it. That's right, you paid for it. The average Jim, the average Joe, the average Jane, the average Susan, the average Akmar, you're paying for their health care. You're paying for their cars. You're paying for their 7- and 8-course dinners. You're paying for their vacations. You're paying for their possible extramarital affairs. Everything they do, you are paying for it. So being that you are paying for that and you are the boss, it's time that the boss gets money back, gets health care back. You need to look at government in a different way. Government and this bill in a different way and in a different perspective. While some Republicans and Democrats say we cannot afford this health care reform, the reality is not one of them, not one, is willing to give up their health care coverage that is top notch. And they're not willing to give it up because guess what? You're paying for it. So it's time we ask for it back. We want what they have. So listen carefully, Congress. We don't want a subpar healthcare reform bill. We will not accept you not passing the healthcare reform bill, but we want it even better than his proposed healthcare reform bill. If you can have top-notch healthcare, then every American has a right to have it. As far as how we pay for it, well, you can start by reprioritizing things in Washington, D.C. The time to act is now, and we are not going to accept your incompetence, and we are not going to accept your deceitful ways. Yes, there are a lot of you that are great Congress people, and I respect you, and I like you, and I'm not looking to argue with you. But I'm not going to stand here or sit here in this case and act as if wanting a health care plan is socialism. I'm not going to accept that. If it's socialized medicine and every congressperson and the president gets it, then America is paying for socialized medicine already. But they're only paying for you and your wives and husbands and your families. Well, if the owner of the store can pay for the employees' health care, it's time the owner can afford to also have health care. So for all of you who think I'm too long-winded, or you just don't feel like going to www.senate.gov or www.house.gov, or you don't feel this is important, just remember, you're being lied to, America and my fellow Pittsburghers, and you're being shortchanged, and your money is still going to keep going to Washington. It's still going to pay for the senators who are opposed to health care. You're paying for their health care. You're paying for their car, their gasoline. Everything they do comes from me and you. So I think it's time you let Washington know that this game of deceit and do nothingness is over. We can legally and peacefully get what we want, but it's going to require action from every one of us. Now, unlike a lot of radio talk show hosts or TV talk show hosts, I don't ask you to do anything that I have not already done. You see, I'm actually genuine. And enough of you have met me in person now that you know that I'm actually genuine. But now it's time we work. We need to support the president's health care plan, whether we agree with it or not. Not because it's a great plan, but because it's the only plan. And because we have 300 million Americans that once it becomes law, we can fix that law. We have 300 million Americans, and over 45 million of us are without any health care, and many people are dying because of it. This is America. Let's start standing up for America. I'm sure that every one of you at one point in your life have sung the Star-Spangled Banner or hummed to it. I'm sure you've sung or hummed to God Bless America. I'm sure you stood up for the flag at, the Pledge of Allegiance and all that. And I'm sure you consider yourself a patriotic American. Well, those platitudes are great. And those beliefs are important. But now it's time to prove. That's right, I'm challenging you. I'm putting the challenge out directly at you. Every one of you to hear me. I'm actually challenging you to prove that you are a patriotic American. So what you need to do, and the college kids walking by also need to do, they need to go to www.senate.gov and www.house.gov. When you get there, look up your particular state senator. If you live in Pennsylvania, you would look for Arlen Specter. You would look for Robert Bob Casey. Then you go over to www.house.gov and you look for Jason Altmaier and Mike Doyle. Once you get their phone numbers and their email addresses, you contact them. Now, if you go there, there are forms. One will say healthcare, one will say Homeland Security. Whatever it is you want to talk to them about, you can email them and call them. But if you really are a patriotic American and you believe in the values of America, then you can no longer come up with excuses for not doing these things. Lives are being affected, my friends. Your life is being affected even more than you recognize today. Think about how many times you had to save money for medical needs, or you had to save money in case your child got sick. That's why we want these bills to be passed into law. That's why. But again, I'm not asking you to do anything that I have never done, because you are about to hear something that's going to shock you. And a word of advice to all of you out there who don't participate and let your senators and representatives and your local and federal governments know how you feel. To all of you who don't do that and you don't agree with my views and you want to do exactly the opposite, let it be known. I'm way ahead of you on getting my voice heard. Way ahead of you. I do want the healthcare reform passed, and I have told the United States senators, the president, and the representatives, yes, I'm making my political and patriotic views heard. So if you don't like what I'm saying, I suggest you start getting to work, because you better believe every day I'm working to let those in power know that the only reason why they're in power is because of us. So I'm letting them know. So if I were you, I'd get to work. And in that way, I'm not in that way, but in that respect, and that's not the word I'm looking for, not in that respect, but in that tradition, I guess would work. I'm going to introduce Annette Mendel. That's right, Annette Mendel. She's going to read some stuff to you. I want you to listen very intently. And I'm going to go off camera, and I'm going to try to do a little bit of technical pizzazz. So I'm going to be off camera for a while, and then later I'll be back on. But listen to every single word Annette says. Because for those of you who think that I'm all about